Hey everybody, today is my absolute favorite kitchen lab to do with all of you each year. And so I'm super bummed that we are not in person for this lab, but hopefully after you watch it, you will try it at home. It's got very few ingredients and you'll let me know what you think. All right, so before we start this lab, every single year, I have to ask the question, who doesn't love Mexican food and who doesn't love tacos? Because you can switch them up and make them however you want. So while you're thinking the answer of that, like who seriously doesn't like tacos, I want you to close your eyes and repeat after me. I literally make everybody do this every single year. Now granted, I don't know if you're actually doing it right now, but hopefully you are. So repeat after me. Even though Miss Murray and Miss Adams can sometimes be a little crazy, I promise that I will trust them and keep an open mind while I watch this video demonstration. All right, today is Carrot Taco Shell Day. Like I said, this is my favorite lab to do with you guys because so many of you, when you first hear that and I first started the demonstration, you like make these faces and you think it's gonna be so gross and it's just gonna taste like carrots and that's all you're gonna taste and why would you put carrots in the taco and whatever. And then once we bake them and we finish the whole process off, when we go to eat them, some of you guys make really funny faces right before you're going to take your first bite, and then you realize it doesn't taste bad. You can barely taste any of the vegetable. Really, I don't like carrots at all, and I can't taste the carrots when I eat these, and we make them at home a lot, and it's really, really good. It's a healthier version. There's hardly any flour in it, and it's just really something different. You get nutrients from the vegetable, and it's just different, it's fun, and it's awesome. So as you're watching it, keep an open mind. If you try it, keep an open mind. I really hope you guys try this one at home because like I said, this is my favorite. So while I finish setting up here, we've got everything mise en place. I want you to first, before we worry about mise en place, we've got to think about what equipment we need. So take a quick second and copy down the equipment list, and then we'll get ready and we'll go over the mise en place. So our quick list of mise en place here, I'll scroll through so you have all the specific amounts of each ingredient in just a second, but we've got salt and pepper, cheddar cheese, a little bit of flour, a couple eggs, and then the carrots. So the biggest thing that we have to do, we have to measure out all of the first four ingredients. Oh, and we've got a little bit of water, so we'll use that. But we have to measure out those ingredients, but then with the carrots, it's important that we shred or grate or even mince the carrots. So they're gonna be in really small pieces. So we've used a box grater in a couple other videos, and I have already started to grate a good amount of the carrots. So we want 1.5 cups total of the shredded or grated carrots. So that usually ends up being about 3 medium to large carrots, but you want to make sure that as you go, put it into a measuring cup and portion it out as you go. All right, so I already did, like I said, I already did most of them. This is the ends as I've been grating them, and I'm going to show you what to do if you don't have a grater. So I showed you guys this before, that I have a cutting board that just has like a ridge right in here. So I'm able to kind of wedge this into the ridge just for safety. Remember that when you're using a grater, it's a style of a knife, so be careful while you're grating. Now I'm going to use 2 different sides of the grater for each carrot that I'm using, because when you go to patty the mixture up and you add it into the mixture, having a little bit larger of a grate and then having the smaller grate, it kind of fills in all of those holes a little bit better and it binds more effectively, I have found in life, than just using one style. It doesn't matter if you only have one at home, use what you have, and if you don't, then I'll show you in just a second what we're going to do with the knife and using these end parts. So remember that when we're grating that you want to make sure, like I said, it's a knife essentially, and it is sharp, so make sure that you keep that either your box grater or your single grater, your single edge grater, sturdy and keep it in one place. And then I'm going to switch, like I said, and use the other half of this on like the larger grade. As you get lower in your carrot to being, or closer to being done, and lower in your mount, you may want to switch your grip. It just really kind of becomes preference, in the biggest way that you're going to be stable. There's not really a right or wrong way to do this where we, you know, kind of like when we talk about the knife skills, there is more effective ways and ways that you are less likely to get hurt. All right, I got a little guy there. And then I'm going to quickly kind of switch this and try to do a little bit more on this short edge. Just a little bit more. And then I'm going to mince those last pieces. So I'm going to remember, if you pull anything from the grater, pull it from the inside or the dull side. If you sweep down here, that's when you can sometimes get hurt. So we'll get that out of the way and scoop all this in here. All right, so again, we've got a good mix of two different styles of shredding or grating. Now, what do you do if you don't have a box grater? You can use your skills that we've learned in class to mince all of your carrots. All right, so if you have to, you can do this all the way from the very beginning. And what you do is just make sure that first clean all of your carrots and then use your vegetable slicer to peel the outside of your carrots. And then you're going to chunk them down by using that slicing action, and then put them into a big pile and go ahead and move into that cross chop. All right, remember when you're cross chopping, do small little pieces, or small little areas, I should say. And you want to get this into a really small mince. Make sure when you're cross chopping, you have that guide hand way up on top, and your hands or your fingertips are arched upwards. And we'll keep mincing these. Like I said, you want your mince to be really small, so it is going to take a little bit of time. Remember, when you're using anything with your knife, when you go to sweep anything off of your blade, make sure you're sweeping away from your blade, not up towards it at all. So you don't want to bring your hand at all this way, because that's where you're cutting your sharp edges. So just use the back side of the dull of your hand and go away from the blade. All right, so this mixture right here, I'm going to take a few more minutes and I'm going to mince these even smaller, because right now these are decently small, but I want them to be really, really small. That way when we go ahead and put it in the entire mixture and make the patty, there's no chunks at all. So I want this to be So we have everything all set, and our mixture of some of our grated carrots as well as the minced carrots all in this bowl right here. And you will feel that there's going to be a lot of moisture in the carrot bowl. And that is the same thing as when we talked about the potatoes. There's a lot of moisture in those different vegetables. And then when you start to shred them, that's when you're going to notice them. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we are going to take our water and put that into a saucepan and go ahead and get that onto a range. And we're going to turn this onto a high heat because we want this little bit of water to boil. It won't take that long because there's not that much water. So you want to give that just about 30 seconds, a minute, just to get that little bit of water boiling before we put the different carrots in there. Okay, so again, you looked at your different ingredients. We have the eggs. What you can do while you are waiting for that mixture is to use just any fork or spatula. I haven't really whisked these up yet, so you can use anything. You can do that in the larger mixing bowl once you have combined everything, but it's just a little bit easier to do it first. I just haven't done that. All right, so already we have bubbles starting to form here. And remember, when we have that rapid boil, you'll see the bubbles, and that's what we want. So we're gonna take all of the carrots now and put them into this water. You should hear a little bit of that sizzle. All right, that sizzle means your pan is getting nice and hot, and that water is going to cook the carrots. All right, so we're gonna move those around so they're evenly spread out amongst the whole pan, and use just about, you want to make sure that you scrape everything from your pan. All right, so we want to keep this on this high heat for about 3 to 4 minutes if you're using a stovetop. All right, I'm going to lower this just a little bit, but really not too much. All right, and it's going to keep that little bit of water on that rapid boil, and it's really going to cook these and soften these. So go ahead and put a pan lid over the top of that, and really you can just leave it be until towards the end. If you want to lift your pan lid and give it a stir a couple times, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you're leaving it back to a thin layer. All right, if you are not using a stovetop, you can also do this recipe in the microwave. So what you would do is just go ahead and put same amount of water, microwave safe bowl, patty out or lay out the carrots into an even mixture, or an even layer, excuse me, and put them in the microwave. It will take a little bit longer, so it's more like 5 to 6 minutes to make sure that they are softened. So in the meantime, I'm gonna use the same mixing bowl and just give it a quick rinse, because why create more dishes for yourself? So while this is cooking, all I'm gonna do is I am going to mix all of the other ingredients. So we've got our egg, our flour, the cheddar cheese, and then the salt and pepper. So give this a nice good stir, and you want to make sure that this is evenly coated and that egg starts to separate. You'll be able to kind of smell the egg and the flour combining, and if you watched the pasta video, the homemade pasta noodles, it's going to be that same kind of that flour, when that flour hits some moisture, that same smell. So this is going to look almost like a paste, because when that egg meets the flour, it will, you know, as it combines, that is the texture that's going to be created. So if you can see here, this is going to be the paste, and we are going to combine that with the carrots in just a minute, but we have one other step. So keep mixing this through, and then we'll check the temperature of the carrots, and we will talk about what we do before we put the carrots in here, because we want to get the excess water out. All right, so watch your temperature and watch, make sure that you're giving it a good stir, and then turn it off about after 3 minutes on being on the rapid boil. So now it is time to get all of the extra moisture out of the carrots, and there's going to be a lot. So what we're going to do is we are going to use any mixing bowl. I grabbed a glass bowl just so you guys will be able to see how much water comes out of the carrots once they're cooked, and they have absorbed that water that was in the saute or in the saucepan. So I am going to use a kitchen towel. All right, you can use paper towel for this. However, you need to layer the paper towel. There needs to be a good amount, because there's gonna be so much water that even the best paper towel ever is not going to be as absorbent as a kitchen towel or a cheesecloth. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to use a slotted spoon, and we're just going to take the entire carrot mixture. You can see that there's a ton of steam coming right out. And we're gonna take that entire carrot mixture and spoon it into this towel. Make sure that we don't miss any. Now what we're going to do with this towel is we are going to wring out the carrots. When you wring them out, because the carrots just came off the stovetop, you want to do it quickly, because that's when they're going to be the most soft, and that's when there's the most moisture there. But however, it's going to be hot. So just be aware of that when you go to pinch your towel like I'm doing now. And as soon as you lift, when you start to first squeeze, if you touch down here, all that water that's going to start coming out, and you'll see it in just a second, it's going to be hot. It just came off the stovetop. So that is, you know, it's not quite as hot as a boiled water, but it is going to be hot. So when I give the first squeeze here, you can see some of that water coming down, and I'm immediately touching, you know, really, really hot water. So what I like to do is, if I have a kitchen towel that I'm using, is to just kind of flip down the sides, and it just creates an extra layer for your hands. Make sure that you don't have a hole in the top. And then it just, like I said, it creates an extra layer, and it's easier for you to touch it. All right, so as you squeeze this, you wanna make sure that you are, like I said, wringing it out, so you can do kind of like a twist squeeze. You can press it right next to each other. but you want to get all of the water out as best you can. There's no real rhyme or reason. There's nothing to say that it's going to be an exact amount of water or how much should come out to measure it. It just depends on exactly, there's a lot of different variables. So there's really no way to say exactly what it should be. But you just want to squeeze that and get as much water out as you can. And if you do need to let it cool for a few minutes, like this is actually really, really hot. So if you want to let it cool for a few minutes, that's okay, but just don't wait too long because the softer, the more water that it is, the softer it's going to be and the easier it is to squish. All right, so I think I've got just about everything here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move this out of the way, take our mixture here with all of our other ingredients that we've already mixed, and we want to carefully combine the dried out but cooked carrots. All right, and you'll see that they're going to be really, really soft to the texture. When you do this and you use a kitchen towel, the kitchen towel is now going to have a ton of orange all over it, but you want to make sure that you get all of those different pieces. All right, and voila, that's what it will look like. So that will definitely have to get bleached when you throw it in the wash. So now using a rubber spatula, or you can use your slotted spoon still, now you want to combine the soft cooked carrots with the rest of the mixture. You really want to make sure that that mixture is evenly combined. So take a couple, take a good solid 60 seconds to mix it through all the way and make sure that, you don't have a lot of egg in one area and no egg in another, and that both of the mixtures are completely mixed through, and so it is just one smooth mixture. All right, so take a second to do that, and then you'll want to grab your sheet pans and make sure that you have your parchment paper for when we go to patty these out in just a minute. Now that we have mixed all of the carrots and really evenly coated them in the mixture with your liquid mixture, now it's going to be time to actually form the shell, which we need to make patties on each of our sheet pans. If you have parchment paper, huge lifesaver in this particular recipe. Using either parchment paper or wax paper is really going to make it a lot easier for you when they come out of the oven. If you don't, that's fine. Just make sure that you use a lot of cooking spray, or if you take butter, that you use a paper towel and really, really coat the areas in which you will put your mixture down. Because the cheese and the egg, it will very easily get stuck to the pan. So the parchment paper makes your life a ton easier. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this mixture here and we are going to make 4 balls of mixture, because it's not really dough, and then we will patty them out after. You wanna make sure that you get them to be about as even as possible, but this is not one that you have to necessarily completely measure out. All right, and then I'm actually gonna steal a little bit from this one and a little bit from here. I went a little bit too heavy in the first 2. All right, now this recipe makes 4 shells that are going to be a traditional, kind of like a traditional 8-inch taco shell, an 8 to 10 inch. If you so choose when you're watching this, if you're just making them for yourself and you want to make 2 larger shells, then you would just divide your batter in 2. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take the rubber spatula and we're going to start to take this mixture and thin it out and create the round disc or the round shell. Now because it is very soft, you do have to do it in small batches. If you just take right from the middle and try to spread it all the way, it's not going to. So we will do the same thing for this one. And then the best resource, and we've said this a ton of times, your best resource in the kitchen is to use your hands. So what I'm gonna do after I have these 2 done is now I'm going to just kind of use my fingers and I'm going to curl up the edges here and then flatten these out. And some of it may actually spread the batter a little bit further because you do want your batter to be really thin. And we'll get a nice good close-up shot of that in just a few minutes. And you can kind of use just like a circular motion on the backs of your fingers. You can use the heel of your hand, whatever is easiest for you, but just remember that you do need to be delicate because you don't want any holes in the shell. But you want to make sure that you do thin out thin out the batter as thin as you can. All right, if the batter is thicker when it goes into the oven, the shells, they're just not gonna taste as good. All right, so then we're gonna do the same thing over here, and we're gonna get this one all set. Now, you could probably get 3 shells on one pan at a time if you put 2 here and 1 here by making this size, depending on how many shells you're making for you and your family. I just spread these out a lot so it would be easier for you to see. This is the part where definitely a lot of people think the mixture doesn't look appetizing. Trust me, again, keep an open mind while you're watching this video. And I really hope that you try to make this one, because even though it does not look appetizing, when it gets done, it looks totally different once it's baked, first off. And then 2, it tastes really, really good. You really taste the cheese and you don't taste the carrots hardly at all. So we're gonna thin this out and have these 2. Now these can be pretty close together because it's not like anything that has any yeast in it or like any baked products that are gonna merge into each other. It's just gonna stay exactly where it is. It's not gonna spread at all. So exactly the size that it is what it will be like when it comes out of the oven. All right, so I'm going to finish off these 2, and then we will come back and we'll talk about the oven temperature and the time of how long these go in. We have our 4 taco shells now, and they are ready to go into the oven really quickly. I want you to take a look at just how thin the layer itself would be. And you can see over on those 2 as well. So I did not tell you earlier, and I should have, but we are going to preheat the oven to 375 degrees. If your oven isn't as strong, you may want to preheat to a little bit higher or keep these in just a few extra minutes. But both of our sheet pans are gonna go into the oven now at 375 degrees, and we are gonna put these in for 15 minutes. So our carrot taco shells have just come out of the oven. I'm going to just use our cutting boards underneath both of them, just so the hot pans aren't sitting right directly onto the countertop. Now, for the next part, what we do when we lift this off the parchment paper, you can use an offset spatula, but honestly, I just use the rubber spatula as well, because the texture of the cheese and the egg, as it starts to kind of bake, it's gonna form really together, and it's really, really easy, especially on the parchment paper. So as you can see, all I'm doing is taking around, kind of going around and lifting it, and you can flip it here. If you have a little bit of brown, almost like a little bit of a burnt on there, it's gonna be, I actually love it that way. It's gonna hold its shape really, really well. Now, I have had students, I will tell you guys, in the past that have gone home, once we've done this in class, that have gone home and done this recipe, say that about 10 minutes into the 15-minute cooking time, that they actually take these out of the oven, flip them, just so you get that smooth finished side on both sides. It doesn't really matter, it's completely preference, but I like to pass along the tips. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is you could go ahead and load these if you want, and they are ready to go. But if you want them to be that true taco shape, what we're using our muffin tins for is we're actually gonna flip these upside down, and we are gonna use these to have the taco shells take shape. So while they are still hot, you want them to be hot when you do this, but not so hot that you can't touch them, but you don't want to let them sit and cool too long, because then you'll be kind of wasting the time for it to take shape. So once you flip them, go ahead and grab one of the edges, and you're just going to tuck it really delicately, tuck it in between 2 sets of the muffin tin, and create that taco shape. So I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. And you can use that smoother side as your outside. And then we'll do the same thing with these 2. And you can kind of force it just a little bit if you need to. Now, while they are delicate, they aren't so delicate that you can't move them around. All right, so be gentle with them, but they have flex to them. All right, so we are gonna let these cool for just a few minutes and let them take shape. Usually about 3 minutes is a great time to let them take shape before you start loading them. While your taco shells are baking in the oven, that's a great time to cook your meat if you're gonna make chicken tacos or beef tacos, and get your toppings out and prepare. That way, as soon as these take shape, you can load them and get them onto your plate. So next will come our plate with pride moment, and we are gonna make beef tacos tonight, kind of more like the most traditional taco. And you'll see that in just a second. So about 3 minutes until these will be ready to load. You all know that this is my favorite part of any food lab, is when we get ready to plate our products. And as I've said so many times, plate with pride. You know, this is one of my favorite times right before we sit down for dinner, is to just take a little bit of pride in what I just made and to really put it on the plate fancy as it can be, even if it is just something tacos. Now we have these little taco trays here at our house, so I went ahead and used those. It's gonna keep that shape up a little bit longer with the taco shells, any type of shell that you have, and just keep everything in there. But the shape that the carrot taco shell makes, it really is gonna hold its form. So you can see we've got a couple different tacos here. Both have ground meat in them. This one was loaded with cheese, salsa, and banana peppers, and just a little bit of sauce over the top, some nachos, and a little bit of queso dip served on the side. And then over here, we've got also ground beef, cheese, jalapeno, banana pepper, and a little bit of sauce over on the top. And we've got some Doritos and salsa. So perfect size for lunch here, 2 tacos each. Manipulate that recipe if you need to, and double it if you are looking for making for more than 1 or 2 people. And then also, just play with that math and figure out how much you need if you want to make this for your whole family. Like I said, this is my absolute favorite recipe to do with you guys. I adore this recipe. I think it's so much fun when we are in class. We usually have a little assembly line set up, and we go through and you guys get to load your tacos once you've made your carrot taco shells, and it's one of my all-time favorite days. So if there is any one recipe that you guys are gonna try out of all the videos that we've done since we've been doing the distance learning, it is this recipe. This is my favorite to do with you, and I really hope that you take the time to look at those simple ingredients, really simple to make, doesn't need a lot of equipment, and try it, because then you can load those tacos any way you want. Make chicken tacos, make beef tacos, shrimp tacos, whatever the case may be. So have fun with it. Please try it. Send us pictures. We can't wait to see them, or short little videos. And like I said, take pride in what you guys are doing. We hope you're in the kitchen cooking, and we can't wait to see you guys soon sometime.